Hey, welcome to the channel today, everybody. Again, as always, thank you for tuning in. Today we want to bring you a little bit different video. You may, if you have watched this channel very much, have noticed that at the end of a lot of our videos, we end by saying, live your journey. And the reason that we say that is because we believe that life is a journey, that we're all on a path, and that we all have our own path. My choices of what I do and how I choose to live my life are different than somebody else. But that doesn't make my choices any better than someone else's, or someone else's choices better than mine. But we do believe that we all should live our life on purpose, or have a purpose to what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so we're going to bring you a little video today as part of a series I want to do from time to time called Everyday Awesome. And the reason that I want to make this video is because there are so many people out there that are living awesome lives. And what they're choosing to do with their life is maybe different than me. Sometimes it's similar to what I'm doing and what our family is doing. But it is awesome nonetheless. And so from time to time, we're going to sit down and do interviews with these people that are choosing to live their life purposefully, that are doing something that I find inspirational, that hopefully you'll find inspirational as well. And so today we're going to go ahead and bring you one of those videos of someone who's making every day awesome. So hope you enjoy. All right, so like I said, we are going to bring you an interview today as part of our Everyday Awesome series that we're going to be doing on the channel from time to time. And today we are here with Jared and Kirsten. We actually met them on the boat. It was kind of funny. The first day you're on the boat and you're kind of finding your way around the boat, and Cameo actually ran into Kirsten. I wasn't there. I guess you could probably tell the story better, but Cameo said, she talked to Kirsten and saw that there was some young kids there, not a lot of young kids on this boat, as you can imagine on a cruise, 2-week cruise. But there were some young kids around, so they started talking about their kids, and pretty much everything Kirsten said, Cameo was like, oh, me too. Oh, me too. And it was almost like junior high girls trying to become friends. Cameo just wants to really get in tight with Kirsten, but we found out right away we had a lot in common. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit, and your family. So, Jared.
All right. I'm Jared, and we have 4 children: Kate, Enoch, Eli, and Carly. Kate is our oldest. She's 17. Enoch is 15. Eli is 13, and Carly is almost 9.
Which, again, are the exact same age as our kids, so crazy.
And I, too, was not in the elevator. It was just our wives. So, which is funny, because we're usually the connectors.
Yeah.
And it's just so happened that they connected. And we're here on this cruise. We were looking for a way to get over to Europe, and thought, hey, we've never been on a cruise. This would be great. Great experience. And it was within the comparable price range as tickets to fly, almost. And so we came here, and we had the blessing of getting to meet these guys.
Yeah, it's been great. And you're from Mesa, right? You grew up primarily in Mesa, Arizona, which is where Cameo and I both grew up. So that was crazy too. But before you guys came, you were living in Hawaii, right? And how long were you guys there?
So we were there for a total of 7 months. Of course, a little bit about myself. I grew up in a small little farming community in California, Northern California. And my wife grew up in Mesa. And then we met back at BYU and fell in love, married each other. Now we have our 4 kids.
Yeah, and you guys have been married 19 years this year, is that right?
Yeah, 19 years.
Yeah, so almost to that 20-year mark. And then prior to living in Hawaii, if I'm right, and we just met on the boat, and we have become, I think, fast friends. When you're in an environment like this, it's kind of different than your normal life back home because we have a lot of free time, right? And so we've spent nearly every evening together on the boat, just visiting. Our youngest kids will go up to the kids club, and then we pick them up and take them for a snack before they go to bed, and we end up talking. So we've got to learn a lot about each other, but I still don't know everything. So some of these questions I'm asking, I don't know the answer to. But you guys, if I'm correct, traveled before you went to Hawaii, right? You did like a West Coast traveling trip.
Yes.
Okay, so what did that entail?
So to kick this off, this decision to go travel as a family, we booked different places throughout the West Coast. We, first of all, to be able to do this, we sold our home, sold the business, got rid of all our stuff except for a little bit of things that we have at my in-laws, Kirsten's family's home. And we had a little Honda Odyssey van. We loaded our luggage in there, strapped on some bikes on the back, and took off. And we went to Nevada to visit actually a previous mission companion of Kirsten's, and had a great time with the kids. And then we headed up north to Utah, spent a few days there, went up into Idaho, Rexburg. We used to live in Rexburg, Idaho, and we got to visit some friends and just see the old stomping ground. And the kids had a great time. We got to reconnect with some of their friends. And then my family, when I turned 18 and went off to school, they moved up to a little town called Brookings, Oregon. And I've fallen in love with this place. It's on the ocean, very quaint community. So we booked a little home there to stay there for a month.
So you're there for a month.
Yeah.
And before that kind of stint of travel, which how long did that last total?
That was
including the month you stayed in Brookings there.
It was only about 2.5 months that we did the West Coast.
But 2.5 months, you say only 2.5 months, but for a lot of people here, only 2.5 months of traveling nonstop, like that's a pretty big deal. And had you ever done anything like that before? Any extended travel more than like the kind of U.S. traditional week or 2-week vacation or anything like that?
No.
Nothing like that
No,
before.
just typical American. Work yourself to the bone.
We take
Run
a
on
week
vacation
here
to
or
go
there,
visit
so,
family.
Right.
Yeah.
Visit family and things like that. And I love, you say, oh, we got this, Honda Odyssey. A lot of people think, oh, I'd love to do that, but I've got to have the 30-foot motorhome, or I've got to have the big fifth wheel in the back, and so I'm saving up for the fifth wheel, or I'm saving up for the, sweet Class A motorhome that you see in the U.S. that are giant buses going down the road. But it doesn't have to be that way, right?
Right.
You were able to find places that you rented along the way, places that you could stay with friends or family, and you can still get out there and do it without having that, $400,000 Class A super yacht on land that some people think that you have to have. I've definitely found you don't need that kind of stuff. You just need to, a lot of times, get out there and do it. So you mentioned that you sold a business to be able to do that. What business was that you sold?
I'm a physical therapist, and so the business was a wellness practice.
Okay. So you sold the business and kind of cut away from the 9 to 5, but what prompted you to even do that? What made you say, you know what, this is a path that we've been on that 99% of the people we know, or 99% of America strives for and lives for, and you got a business and you got a good career and you've gone to school, you put all this time to become a doctor of physical therapy in school, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to check out of this, I'm going to go do something else. That probably, at least for most people, doesn't happen overnight. So walk me through some of those steps of what you guys went through when you thought, let's do something different. Let's try something that might not be the norm. So how did that work out?
Jared was brainwashed. That's really how it started.
Jared was brainwashed. I think that's a phrase that I heard from a lot of couples. Yeah, one of these people were brainwashed, and the next thing you knew, I was brainwashed too. And all of a sudden, here we are, these crazy people on a boat sailing to Europe. So, how were you brainwashed?
Well, we have some good friends, Nathan and Carrie, and ever since we met them when we first got married, Nathan has had a dream to live on a catamaran with his family. And I remember the first time I heard that, I thought that is the craziest thing I've ever heard, and it just didn't fit in my box. And so, but through the years, they've worked towards that goal. And 2 years ago, they left. They packed up. We watched them. We helped them take off. We watched them drive away in their minivan with everything they owned in it, and their girls to head off to Florida to start living that dream of living on a catamaran. And so, they were best friends, so we heard them talking all the time, and Nathan and Jared would call each other all the time, and Nathan was wonderful. He just kept saying, you gotta live your dreams, you gotta chase your dreams. If this is your dream to live in Arizona in a house and go to work all the time, then
do
enjoy
it, right? Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what your dream is.
Exactly. And so we thought, yeah, we're happy we like this, but then as we got talking, that really wasn't our dream, and we just started thinking about, well, what is our dream? What would we like to do? And that's what spurred us on, is their example and talking with them. And it helps to see other people doing it and the happiness that they get from it. So that's what started us.
Yeah, I think you said a couple of things there that really stick out to me that I always tell people all the time is you started thinking, what do we really want? I think so much in life, wherever you are, you kind of just end up putting one foot in front of the other. Like you get on a path because maybe that's what you were taught to do, or because that's what you fell into, or maybe your family had a business and you fell in that business, or you knew somebody that did something, you followed that path, and then you just get one foot in front of the other, and you never really take that moment and stop and say, wait, do I want to keep putting that foot in front of the other, or do I want to try something different? Maybe I want to, grow an apple orchard somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, or maybe I want to sell a catamaran across the sea. But sometimes we don't even stop and think about what is it that I really want. And that's something that we talk about a lot, is living your life intentionally or living it on purpose. But you can't live it intentionally or on purpose if you've never stopped to think, well, what is my purpose? What do I want, more than just putting one foot in front of the other? So, yeah, I think that's where it should start for all of us. And maybe like you guys were at that point, maybe after you stop and say, what do I really want? You're like, I want what I have right now. I love my job, and my kids are happy, or my life is fulfilling, and great, keep doing that. But I do think there's a lot of people out there that want more if they stopped and let themselves even think about it or believe it was a possibility. And so when you do that and you think there's more out there to my life, or I can spend this life in a more meaningful way to me, then that sets you off on a path that leads you hopefully to a greater amount of happiness. So you guys had that moment. You started thinking maybe we want more, and so more for you right now is what? What is it that you're living your life to try to accomplish, or to make the most, to make every day awesome, like we're talking about here?
So I love communicating with others and love serving others. And I've always wanted the opportunity to be able, the profession I chose was to be able to help people. And it puts a different perspective on it when you have to help people and provide for your family at the same time. And I've always wanted to find something and create something that would provide that family income and be able to do what I loved, just to do what I loved and share it with others. And I always thought I needed to, create millions and millions of dollars to be able to do this and maintain my home, maintain my vehicles, business, and everything else. And like she said, both of us, Nathan and I, we think outside the box, but he thinks outside the box, and he goes for it. And watching them fulfill his dream that we knew he had helped me to start realizing, hey, in order to make this dream happen, you can't really hold on to everything you have at home, especially at our age. And you've got to let go of things.
And it's scary to try to let go of stuff and take that first step, and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to go for it.
Right.
And if it doesn't, we'll just come back and start over, and it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think that's a big point too. A lot of people feel like if you make a decision, then you're married to that decision. It's like, oh, we're going to do all this, and then that's going to be my life forever because I took that step and did that. But that's not it at all. It's like, hey, let's try this for a while, and if it goes well, we'll keep rolling with it. If it's not really what we like, or we miss what we were doing before, we can usually undo decisions almost as easily as we make them, and sometimes easier. So you can fall back into whatever you were comfortable with before, or try something different. You don't have to be married to this new plan, whatever your goal is that you're searching for. I know I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm like, I really want to do this, and I do it for a while. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of cool, but I don't want to do it anymore, or that wasn't nearly as great as I thought it would be, and I definitely don't want to do it. So you change gears and you move on. So that's a great point. I'm glad you made that. And I like the point that you made earlier too, is that we get in our minds that, if we're going to travel the world with our family, or if we're going to start a business, or if we're going to do whatever we're going to do, we want to bike across the U.S., then you feel like I've got to have this enormous sum of money to make that happen. We got to have millions of dollars. Only millionaires travel full time. And that's definitely, I can tell you, we have met a lot of families, and we ourselves don't fall into that category of unending amounts of money. But you don't need that, right? And so how were you able to do that? You sold a business and you did that. You also mentioned you made some investments that let you do that. Is that correct? You want to talk about that a little bit, or just touch on it? Or
just touch on it.
Yeah.
Basically, we were blessed with an investment that allowed us to have a certain amount of money on a monthly basis that provides for our living. And I could have, and so at the time, we had been discussing about doing something like this. And my daughter was getting older. She's 17. I hadn't spent a lot of time with her, because when you have a business, you spend a lot of time in the business, whether you're there working in it or thinking about things to improve. All that takes a lot of your time. I realized that I hadn't spent the amount of time I wanted to with my family. And so we decided to, hey, we have this opportunity where it will provide for us to go and do the things that we want to, as long as we stay within a budget.
Well, I think some things also that helped us to get to where we are is we always tried to avoid debt, so we didn't have any debt coming into it. That helped us.
Yes.
And then having sold off those things, everything.
Yeah.
We don't own a house. We don't own any cars right now. We don't own anything. So those are the two things that allowed us to do that. And the fact that he has skills, that he can keep up his license as a physical therapist if we need to pick up work different places.
Mm-hmm.
And he can still do that, and he can do it over the internet
Right.
as needed. And hopefully we won't have to, but if it comes to that, we have a plan and backup.
Have a safety net in place.
Yeah.
So those are all things that we've realized too, just Cameo and I and our families. One, debt is really hard to go out and live on a budget if your budget includes a lot of debt. So that was something that before we left, we worked really hard to clear out our debt. And then the other thing, you mentioned having kind of a backup plan or a safety skill, and that is really, really big as well. And then the last thing you mentioned a couple times, and it's so true, is, I think if you want to maintain your home and your stuff back home, back wherever your home is, then you probably need a larger amount of money to do that, because it's expensive to have a house, to pay a mortgage, or even to just maintain the house so it's not falling apart while you're gone. But if you're willing to give up a lot of that stuff and sell the house, or in our case, we're renting out our house right now, and having those expenses covered while you're gone, if you don't have to maintain that while you're gone, it allows you to do more of these types of things. And again, we're both kind of traveling families right now, but we were talking the other day, right, about people that had goals and were able to give up a lot of their stuff or their comforts to meet those goals. Some actors and things that had lived in their car so that they could become an actor, or lived in, less than ideal conditions because it wasn't as important to them to have the best place to live. It was more important for them to get their goal, their dream of becoming an actor, a musician, or whatever it was. And so I think priorities is a word that comes to mind a lot for us. And if you want to spend more time with your kids, like, that's a huge motivator for us too. Then you have to prioritize. I can spend more time with my kids by selling my business and traveling with them full time, or I could maintain the status quo and keep working hard and keep my house up, but I'm going to have to be in my business and I'm not going to see my kids. For you, it was more important at this time to spend that time with your kids. So it was, I'm guessing, and I know for us, it was easier to kind of make that decision to sell a business or put it aside at that time because you're gaining something else, which is these experiences that you're having with your kids now.
Yeah, and like my wife said, there's always time, when the kids are gone, that you can go back to doing those types of things. If you have other things you want to accomplish on a personal level, that doesn't involve your family, when your kids are grown and gone, you have extra time. They're older, of course, but with the profession that I have, anyways, you can do it for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Well, like you were saying about trade-offs, there are trade-offs. Like, we had our kids in piano lessons and music lessons, and they're in school choir and band and orchestra and things. And we've had to trade off some of those things, and we've switched to mom giving piano lessons. And but you know what? They've learned so many music things too on our way. They've picked up learning songs from the people where we're living, like in Hawaii. They learned some guitar
we just heard them singing some Hawaiian songs. Beautiful.
So it's just it's not the traditional education in music, but they're getting world culture and world music. And so there are trade-offs, but I don't know that one is better than the other.
Right.
But yeah, there are trade-offs.
There are trade-offs. And speaking of the kids and learning and music and all that, one question that we get all the time is probably for us, the number one question we get is, what do you do with the kids for school? How do you handle the kids' schooling? And so there's lots of different ways to do that. But you guys homeschool, right? And were you homeschooling before you started traveling as well, or were your kids in traditional school before you started traveling?
We actually started homeschooling our kids a year before we started traveling.
Okay.
And we didn't know we were going to be traveling. We just had a thought and felt like we needed to do that. So we started homeschooling them the year before we left. And I'm easily overwhelmed, so we started with a really simple program. It's called the Robinson Curriculum, and he just basically has 3 things that the kids do. And they spend 2 hours a day on Saxon math. So we ordered books for them and answer keys, and they work through the books pretty much on their own. They're self-learners, and then I'm just there to help when they get stuck. So they were starting to do Saxon math for 2 hours in the morning, and then an hour of writing every day, writing a paper. And the idea behind it is that they read 2 hours of classic literature in the evening, and the more they read that classic good literature, the better writers they can become because they're exposed to it over and over and over. And then also, I would help instruct them on the writing. So it was really simple when we first started, so I couldn't get overwhelmed. But then as we've gone along, I've been able to add in another curriculum that I really like, or another part to our curriculum. So we did Robinson for the first year, then we started traveling and met up with Jared's brother and his wife, and they were doing this curriculum called Classical Conversations. And we became really interested in it, and it was really easy just to add on to our simple curriculum. And it's something you can just look for online, Classical Conversations.
And I'll put a link to these underneath. So under the video here, they'll have a little tab. You click on that, and they'll show you a link for Classical Conversations. And the first one was Robinson Curriculum. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, those are just the 2 that we use. But the Classical Conversations is fun because it's mostly music and some memorization that helps the kids just learn some basics, because that's sometimes you're like, what do I need to teach my kids? That's the hardest part, is knowing
Right.
what your kids need to know.
What do they need to know?
Yeah, and so the classical conversations just gives you a great platform to be able to teach your kids what they need to know.
Perfect. Yeah, that for sure is the number one and question that we get asked, and there are a lot of ways to do it. I don't know that one's better than the other. A lot of it depends on kids. We're all individuals, and we learn differently, and everybody has their own philosophy on it. I know for Cameo and myself, we want our kids to be able to have as many options open to them as possible. So as we do our education for our kids, we kind of keep it in mind to, if they want to go off to a university, we want to make that an option for them. If they want to go start a business, we want to give them skills to be able to do that. If they want to teach, whatever they want to do, we want to make sure that they have those opportunities and doors open to them. And luckily, we live in a day and age where there are just so many resources out there that allow you to provide a first-rate education for your kids, even if they're not in a traditional brick-and-mortar school system. So, one other question I'll ask you, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here, is if you were to, actually, maybe I'll ask you two questions. I'm going to ask you this one first, and it's about, what do you do for healthcare? Because that's another question we get asked a lot. So do you guys have health insurance right now, or are you going to continue that? Are you just going to rely on the health insurance in the countries where you're visiting, or how do you handle that?
Right now, we do have, it's a MediShare program, which is like, Christian-based MediShare, which acts as health insurance, which has a decent deductible. But as far as healthcare goes, we hardly ever use the system.
Right.
I have my, of course, knowledge in physical therapy, so anything physical that happens, I can usually treat and help and take care of. I've also worked a lot with chiropractic, naturopathic, medical doctors, nurse practitioners. So I've gleaned a lot of knowledge and information, and a lot of great friends. That if I have a question, I can call them up and run things by them. And then if I need to go to a facility, then I can.
But the plan we use is Liberty Health Share.
Yeah, Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share.
Yeah, and we use a system similar to that, or we did. When we were in the U.S., we were gonna move away from that as we travel. We'll talk about that more in another video. But that's another question we get a lot. Like, well, what do you do for healthcare or health insurance? That's a big concern for people.
And the good thing about this one is it's worldwide.
Yeah.
So that's really hard to find when most medical insurance in America is not going to go outside of the U.S.
Right. Which was why we stopped using ours, because it didn't cover us outside of the U.S. But this Liberty Health Share, which again I'll provide a link to on the bottom there, that may be an option if this is something you want to do, or maybe just even if you're in the States and you need health insurance, that might be an option you want to look into. Okay, and then the last question I wanted to ask you is, what words of wisdom or what little pearls would you have for somebody that maybe isn't fully satisfied with their life and they're saying, I just think there's something more out there for me. What can I do to break this rut that I'm in and make their dreams come true? Do you have any pearls for them?
Myself, put it out there. Let others know what your dream is. Put it on paper. I've often heard of vision boards, of things that this is what you want out of life, and share it with others, and really take the time to ponder and to discuss with your married, discuss with your spouse, discuss with your children, what you guys truly want out of life, and is that what you guys are doing now, or is it something better and something that you've always wanted to do? And once you know what it is that you want to accomplish and understand your purpose of, purpose of life, what to help others and do good, run with the decision, and with those intentions that you put out there and you share it with others, things come into your life that allow you to make your dreams a reality.
And I think too, another component of it is to have no fear. I mean, try to overcome it, because it is scary to step away from what you're used to and what you've been taught. This is how things work, and you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do this. But overcoming that fear of, what if I do something wrong, or if it doesn't work out, just go for it and just do it.
Yeah.
And then we've created a family theme that kind of, we try to create our travels around, and it's do good, be one, have fun, and work hard. So those are kind of our things that we keep in mind when we plan where we're going to go, what we're going to do.
Can you share that one more time? Say it again.
Do good, be one, have fun, work hard. Those are our things.
So that's great. I love that, and I agree with all of that. I think the first step that we talked about is just sitting down and saying, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? You know, some of us are limited. We have physical disabilities, or maybe mental disabilities, or maybe you know, we don't live in an area of the world that provides us as many opportunities as luckily we have had living in the U.S. But you'll never get where you want to be if you never have stopped to decide where you want to be. So I think that's the first step. And then I love everything else you said. I totally think that's all great advice. So hopefully you guys have found this interview inspiring today. I know I have. I think it's wonderful to see people out there living their life and doing what they want to do. Did you guys have anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to share with them before we end here today?
Just what Kirsten said, my wife said, you know, there's always challenges in whatever you do. You know, you can, especially on social media and things, there's always the good stuff. There's a lot of hard things that you go through in achieving your dreams, but the great experiences that you have when you follow what you truly feel you need to be doing is totally worth it, and you can get through anything. And this, especially this traveling lifestyle, it really pushes you outside your box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're out of the box thinkers, and doers, but it's still not easy to make, you know, to do all that is entailed with getting rid of the things, you know, that might be tying you down,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to move forward and go out and see the world
Yeah.
with your family. So.
And overcoming those fears or those doubts. I agree. I think you made a lot of really good points. You know, with social media, people want to present, look at my fabulous life, or this is so amazing what I do, and they don't show the parts where, you know, all the bad stuff is happening, or you miss the train, or your kids are sick, or they're whining and pulling on you because they're hungry, right? We experienced that yesterday as we were out and about, and it's not all roses all the time, but I don't know of anything in life that's worth it that is just completely easy and a easy path that you don't even have to think about. Anything that you want to do, anything that you feel is worthwhile is going to have a lot of challenge and a lot of struggles to it, but it's overcoming those challenges and those hardships that make the good times even that much sweeter. And I would just echo that, yeah, for sure. It's not all easy, it's not all roses, it's not all the perfect life that sometimes it may seem to be, but all of those hardships, all of those anxieties, those fears that you overcome, those challenges that you have to work through make you a better person, I think, in the long run. So again, thanks for joining us today. Thanks again to Jared and Kirsten for taking some time to share with us. And please leave any comments you have, any questions you have for myself or for Jared or Kirsten. Just put them down in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get back to you and answer those questions. And again, whatever you're doing, whatever life you're wanting to lead, I hope you do get to the fullest of your potential as you live your journey, and have a great day.